Welcome back to the deep dive. We are truly living through an incredible era of AI innovation, aren't we?
It really feels like a constant change.
Yeah, it feels like every other week there's a new tool, a new capability, or, a new way these powerful assistants are weaving themselves into our daily lives.
Hmm.
But with that incredible speed, there's this constant, often unspoken tension. It's between pushing technological boundaries and, well, safeguarding our personal information.
That's the core tension, absolutely.
Have you noticed how quickly the implicit rules around your data seem to be shifting, sometimes with very little fanfare?
It's easy to miss if you're not looking closely.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving deep into a really significant policy shift from Anthropic, the company behind the AI, Claude.
A company many see as sort of the good guys in AI.
Exactly. And this isn't just a minor tweak. It's a profound reorientation of their entire approach to user data.
Hmm.
And it has direct implications for anyone using their consumer AI products.
Indeed, and what's particularly fascinating here is this isn't merely an update. It's a fundamental strategic realignment for a company that, until now, really built its brand on a safety-first and privacy-preserving ethos.
Right, that was their whole angle.
Precisely. For Anthropic, the supposed ethical alternative in the AI space, to pivot this sharply, well, it signals much larger forces at play in the industry.
So what are we aiming for today?
Our mission today is to break down precisely what changed in Anthropic's policies, explore the compelling reasons behind this move, examine the broader industry implications, and most importantly, distill what it means for you, whether you're an individual user chatting with Claude or a business integrating AI tools.
Okay, let's get right into the heart of it then. This policy reversal. Anthropic has fundamentally flipped its stance on using customer data.
Completely flipped it.
They've moved from what was effectively an opt-in model, well, actually, to an opt-out system for using consumer-tier customer data, that's for Claude Free, Pro, and Max users, to train their AI models.
And that change is coming soon.
Yeah, it takes effect on September 28th, 2025. The critical takeaway is this. Your data will now be used by default, unless you actively go into your settings and change it.
The default setting is now, use my data.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Their previous policy was incredibly explicit. It stated, we will not use your inputs or outputs to train our models unless you actively chose to opt in. Very clear.
Black and white.
Now, the new policy reads, we may use your inputs and outputs unless you opt out through your account settings. It's a complete inversion. The burden shifts entirely to the user.
And that inversion is crucial because it redefines the very nature of privacy for their consumer offerings. It creates what we're calling a two-tiered privacy paradigm.
Two-tiered, how so?
Well, on one side, Anthropic's enterprise, government, and API customers still enjoy stringent, contractually guaranteed data protections. Their data remains off-limits for training by default. That's Tier 1.
Okay, the big players are protected.
But for the mass consumer market, that robust privacy protection, it's no longer a given. It's now something you must proactively manage to retain. That's Tier 2.
So privacy becomes a premium feature, almost.
In a way, yes. And beyond that, the data retention period has also seen a dramatic extension.
Oh, right. Tell us about that.
For users who do consent to training, either by choice or just by not opting out, new or resumed chats and coding sessions will be retained for up to 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah, that's a massive leap from the previous 30-day standard.
30 days to 5 years is quite something.
It really is. And even for opted-out users, while the 30-day standard for chat history largely remains, there are still notable exceptions. Feedback submissions, kept for 5 years.
Okay.
Select content, 2 years. And safety scores, basically how they rate your interactions, for a remarkable 7 years.
7 years. So even if I opt out and delete my chats, they keep a sort of behavioral profile on me for almost a decade?
That's a good way to put it. It creates a fundamental tension with principles like the right to be forgotten you see in modern privacy regulations like GDPR.
Because you can't really forget data once it's baked into a model.
Exactly. Once your data has been used in training, its influence becomes a permanent and, practically speaking, inerasable part of that model's architecture.
That's quite a profound change. So what does this all mean? Why would a company like Anthropic, known for its privacy commitments, they built their brand on being a more ethical choice. Why make such a drastic pivot?
It really is a big question. This isn't a minor tweak. It feels like a strategic overhaul.
Definitely.
And it truly is. Ultimately, this is a story of intense market pressure forcing a strategic reevaluation. Anthropic, facing an AI arms race and, let's face it, rapidly rising operational costs. They've essentially concluded that user data is simply too valuable a resource to leave on the table.
Ah, the practicalities.
There are several strategic imperatives at play here, painting a clear picture of an industry in a hyper-competitive fight for supremacy. First and foremost is competitive necessity.
Okay.
In the arms race for superior model performance, real-world user data is an essential resource for fine-tuning these complex AI models.
You need real conversations to make it better.
Exactly.
Huh?
By previously maintaining an opt-in model, Anthropic was, as one analyst put it, competing with one hand tied behind its back, compared to rivals who were already leveraging consumer data.
So they felt they were falling behind.
They likely did. To stay competitive, they needed this fuel. Then there are the economic pressures.
Right, running these things isn't cheap.
Not at all. Running state-of-the-art AI models for millions of users on relatively affordable consumer plans like Claude Pro at $20 a month is incredibly expensive. These consumer plans are often loss leaders or operate on very thin margins.
So the $20 doesn't really cover the cost.
Probably not entirely, or not by much. User data provides a new, highly valuable stream of non-monetary return. It effectively subsidizes the service and makes the business model more sustainable in the long run. It's a trade-off. Data for access.
Okay, competition, economics. What else?
And finally, Anthropic's public justification centers on safety. This aligns with their brand.
Ah, the safety angle. How does that work?
The company argues that real-world conversations are essential for strengthening its safeguards, detecting harmful content, and identifying misuse patterns like scams, abuse, malicious content generation.
So they need to see bad stuff to stop bad stuff.
Pretty much. They've cited their own threat intelligence reports, detailing instances where Claude models were weaponized by malicious actors, things like large-scale extortion, fraudulent employment schemes, even ransomware development. They argue that AI lowers the barrier to sophisticated cybercrime, so they need this data to fight back. It's a sophisticated narrative, aligns with their safety-first brand.
But it also conveniently supports their competitive and economic needs.
Precisely. It serves multiple purposes.
That's a highly sophisticated justification, but I have to wonder if users truly bought into it, especially those who specifically chose Claude because of its privacy stance. What was the immediate fallout?
Well, generally speaking, they absolutely did not buy into it. The user response, particularly from technically savvy communities think Reddit, Hacker News, was swift and overwhelmingly negative.
Ouch.
Yeah. It was largely characterized by a feeling of betrayal of trust. Many users expressed that they had specifically chosen and even paid for Claude precisely because of its strong privacy guarantees.
So they felt misled.
Deeply. They felt Anthropic, positioned as the safety-first and, the don't-be-evil alternative, was now no better than the rest. People were talking about seriously pausing or reconsidering their subscriptions.
And beyond the policy change itself, I've seen a lot of criticism about how they implemented this change. There were accusations of what's often called dark patterns.
Exactly. That was a huge part of the backlash. The user interface, the UX of the consent pop-up, it was widely criticized as employing dark patterns.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Things like a pre-ticked box for improve the models, or a large, brightly colored accept button contrasted with less prominent not now options.
Yeah.
These are design choices deliberately crafted to subtly nudge users toward consent.
Making it easy to say yes and harder to say no.
That's the idea. Even the wording, like not now, was seen as manipulative. It implies you'll just be bothered again later until you finally give in.
Sneaky.
These kinds of design choices could attract scrutiny from regulators like the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. They've explicitly warned against obscuring policy changes like this.
And was there confusion, too?
Oh, absolutely. Significant confusion and ambiguity, particularly regarding that 5-year retention policy. Many users initially and incorrectly believed it applied to all users, not just those who opted in.
Which would be even worse.
Much worse. This misunderstanding fueled a lot of anger and further undermined trust. It really highlighted a failure in Anthropic's communication to clearly articulate the policy's nuances.
So bad policy announcement, bad rollout.
Pretty much. Though, to be fair, a small minority of pragmatists acknowledge that, hey, an opt-out is still better than no option at all, especially compared to some practices outside GDPR zones. But the overall sentiment, undeniably negative.
It sounds like a difficult pill for their users to swallow. But this isn't just about Anthropic, is it? You mentioned this is part of a broader industry trend.
All right.
Are they really just falling in line, or is Anthropic doing anything unique here, even within this so-called industry convergence?
That's a great question because while they are solidifying an industry-wide convergence around data practices, Anthropic's move also shows them pushing certain boundaries. We're definitely seeing the establishment of that two-tiered privacy paradigm across the board.
So how do they stack up against the others now, like OpenAI or Google?
Good comparison. Let's look at OpenAI's ChatGPT. Their consumer services also operate on a functionally similar opt-out model. Users can opt out in their data controls or use temporary chats, which are deleted in 30 days and not used for training.
Okay, similar opt-out.
But crucially, for their business offerings, ChatGPT Team, Enterprise eDo, and their API, it's strictly opt-in. Robust data governance, even zero data retention or ZDR for qualifying API customers.
So same pattern. Business gets protection, consumers opt out. What about Google?
Very similar story with Google's Gemini. For the consumer Gemini app, conversation history is on by default, and that data is used for training. Users must actively go in and turn off Gemini app's activity to prevent data use for training.
Again, opt out for consumers, retention.
Retention for opted-in users can be up to 36 months user or admin controlled. For opted out, it's about 72 hours. And just like OpenAI and now Anthropic, for enterprise customers within Google Workspace, the protections are much stronger. Their data is not used for training without explicit administrator permission.
So the pattern is crystal clear. Strong contractual data protection for big business paying top dollar.
Exactly.
And an opt-out model, data by default, for individual consumers. Anthropic is definitely aligning with that.
Absolutely. The unmistakable industry trend is that enterprise protection is a core, non-negotiable feature for high-cost commercial plans. It has to be, to meet strict security and compliance demands.
Makes sense for businesses.
But for the mass consumer market, data is explicitly treated as a resource to be harvested by default. Now, what makes Anthropic maybe a little unique, even within this trend, is their 5-year retention policy.
Ah, yes, the 5 years, that's longer than the others, right?
It's the most aggressive among its peers for consumer data. This signals, I think, a long-term strategy to build a vast, proprietary data set, a unique data asset that's incredibly difficult for any new market entrant to replicate. It creates a powerful competitive moat.
So they're not just aligning, they're pushing the boundary on consumer data retention to build a long-term advantage.
That seems to be the play.
That certainly makes sense from a competitive standpoint, but boy, this policy change must introduce significant and long-term risks for Anthropic, beyond just ticking off users. What are the potential costs of this pivot?
It absolutely does. And these risks fundamentally alter their entire risk profile. It's not just PR. First, there's serious legal and compliance exposure.
Like the FTC stuff you mentioned.
Yes, that dark pattern consent mechanism could face intense scrutiny from regulators like the FTC here, and it certainly raises questions against GDPR's requirements for freely given, specific, informed, and unambiguous consent over in Europe.
And the right to be forgotten.
That's a big one.
Right.
More fundamentally, the technological conflict with the right to be forgotten is a persistent legal vulnerability. Like we said, once data influences a model's weights, it cannot be truly erased. Then there's the ongoing risk of copyright and IP infringement if models memorize and reproduce proprietary stuff. Users feed in source code, trade secrets.
Stuff people might put into Claude without thinking.
Exactly. Second, consider security and data integrity. That 5-year retention, it creates a valuable but vulnerable honeypot for cyber attack.
A big target.
A huge target. Years of potentially sensitive personal, financial, and professional conversations. Even with automated filtering, there's always a risk of PII. Personally identifiable information like names, addresses, or even PHI-protected health information being inadvertently ingested and later regurgitated by models.
That sounds bad.
It would be very bad. Plus, a wider data pipeline increases exposure to sophisticated model poisoning attacks.
Model poisoning?
Yeah, where malicious or biased data could be fed in to subtly corrupt the training process. You could make the AI learn and propagate harmful biases, or even act maliciously itself.
Okay, legal risks, security risks. What else?
And third, there's reputational and commercial risk.
Yeah.
The damage to Anthropic's brand as the ethical and trustworthy AI developer is already evident. This dilution of its primary brand differentiator could very well lead to customer churn, particularly among paying Pro and Max users who specifically value their privacy.
The ones who pay because they thought Anthropic was different.
Those are the ones most likely to leave. It also exacerbates this digital divide, where robust data protection becomes a luxury for large organizations, leaving individuals and small businesses with, well, a lower class of privacy, where their data is systematically harvested.
That's a lot to consider. So bringing it back to the listener, what does this all mean for you personally or for your business in this new reality where data for access seems to be the norm? What can people actually do to protect themselves?
Right, the practical steps. It's critical to adapt to this new landscape with a mindset of, let's call it, defensive engagement. For businesses and enterprise users, the recommendations are quite clear.
Okay, what should businesses do?
First, mandate enterprise-only use. Strictly prohibit consumer-tier AI accounts like Claude Free, Pro, or Max for any work-related activities involving company data, period. All sensitive interactions should occur exclusively within enterprise-grade, contractually protected environments.
Keep work stuff on work accounts. Got it.
Second, scrutinize contracts. When you're procuring enterprise AI services, make absolutely sure your contracts explicitly prohibit the vendor from using your company's data for their general-purpose model training without your explicit administrator permission. Get it in writing.
Read the fine print.
Always. And third, employee education. Provide continuous training to all employees on the critical differences between consumer and enterprise AI privacy. Emphasize the inherent risks of using consumer tools for sensitive information. Treat them like public forums, basically.
Good advice. What about for individuals or maybe small businesses without those enterprise deals?
For individual users and small businesses, a new mindset is definitely required. First, assume zero privacy. Just operate under the default assumption that anything you type into a consumer-grade AI chat is not private.
Assume it's public?
Assume it could be reviewed by humans, retained for years, and used to train a model. Don't treat these platforms as confidential workspaces. They aren't.
Okay, harsh but clear.
Second, actively manage settings. Immediately upon using any AI service, go into its privacy or data control settings and activate all available opt-outs for model training. And stay vigilant, check back for policy updates or UI changes that might reset or alter these preferences.
Be proactive and stay proactive.
Exactly. Third, sanitize inputs. Get into the habit of removing sensitive details, real names, PII, proprietary info, financial data from your prompts. Use pseudonyms. Use hypothetical scenarios instead. Clean it up before you send it.
Smart. A bit more work, but safer.
And finally, weigh the trade-off. Consciously evaluate if the utility of the AI service is worth the price being your long-term data contribution and the associated privacy risks. This access isn't free anymore. Not really. It's paid for with your data.
That's a powerful and pragmatic set of recommendations for navigating this evolving landscape. This deep dive into Anthropic's policy pivot really highlights that this was maybe a necessary but costly convergence for them.
Seems that way.
They've essentially sacrificed a unique brand differentiation, being the privacy-first alternative for competitive parity in this AI arms race. It's a pragmatic move for the company, perhaps, but one with significant long-term implications for all of us.
Indeed. And this raises an important question for all of us to think about. In a world where data for access is rapidly becoming the new norm for consumer AI, how will this constant demand for our data continue to reshape not just the technology itself, but our fundamental expectations of privacy and digital ownership?
That's a big question.
It is, and it's a conversation that has really only just begun.